Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of your weekly show, The Money Talks. Hi Pankaj, how are you?
Yeah, hi Anirudh, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I glad to see you once again.
Same here, same here. Right, and
So
thank you
I
so
believe
much for
that.
inviting.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. Actually, so you are the people that make this conversation awesome. So thank you so much for being here.
And I'm sure it takes a lot of effort on your part also to get this entire thing scheduled and go through all this. So investors like you are really they go beyond the mile, and thank you for that.
Thank you so much for those kind words. I believe you're in Jaipur right now.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
After this COVID, flights were on, so I flew down to Jaipur now.
oh, good. How's the situation back down in or up in Jaipur for that matter?
So Jaipur is pretty good right now. So it doesn't feel like there's something like COVID-19 here. It's
Okay.
pretty good. The markets are totally on and people are just moving around. Even the streets are like full with people. Traffic is going on. So it's pretty much chilled out here. Unlike back Bombay, where still I hear from my friends and relatives that still things are getting back to normal. It will take some more time, seems like.
Yeah, definitely Bombay. I think, but I think the number of cases are going down in Bombay, so you should expect at least some more relaxation coming up in the next couple of weeks in Mumbai.
Yeah,
So
so
hopefully,
yes, yes. Hopefully, the restaurants and cafes are opening up for us, so maybe we
yeah,
can
and
venture out and
hopefully next time when you're on the show, we can actually have a Coolberg while on the show.
we should have done that actually.
Yeah,
I
actually,
should have sent you a
Iman
bottle.
gave
Yeah,
me this idea right like 20 minutes before the show. She's like, you know what? Maybe we should have got a Coolberg. I was like, well, maybe you should have told us a few days in advance. So I know she
like you
just
mentioned
logged
in
into the
your
show.
post
That's why.
also, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, just
exactly.
like you mentioned in your post also, along with popcorn and Coolberg, a good
Yeah,
combo.
there we go. There we go. So you
Right.
know what, Pankaj, let's get the conversation started. You know, as we talked about before, just a free flowing conversation. We're just gonna find out a little bit more about you know who Pankaj Aswani is, why did he come up with the idea of Coolberg, and you know what makes Pankaj the man he is, right? So let's get started. You know, so maybe first thing you should explain to the audience that is logging in right now, what does Coolberg do?
Sure, sure. So what makes Pankaj Aswani Pankaj Aswani is destiny, right? So I think it's all the luck and destiny and some hard work which counts. So Coolberg, as we would know, it's a non-alcoholic beer, right? So we were the first one in the country to launch this category back in 2016. So at that time, no one knew about this category, and we were like, okay, let's venture into something different. So non-alcoholic beers are generally made of barley malt.
Okay.
They are brewed under a very controlled environment so that the alcohol is not generated at all. And there are certain other processes also. Now these days, some technologies have come through which other companies are also using. So the idea is to keep the product as close as to beer and at the same time not having alcohol in it. Plus, like being Coolberg, we play around with a lot of other variants also. So if somebody wants to have like the taste of beer, for them we offer Coolberg malt version of it, which
Yeah,
is a malt beer
I've
we
tried
call
that.
it.
That is so good, by the way.
Sure, sure. Thank you. And then people who want to explore the exotic flavors, so we have got like cranberry, peach, strawberry, mint, ginger. So in total, we have got six variants right now in the market. So these are placed in the retail stores, cafes, restaurants. So wherever we are able to like go further in the penetration, we are doing that right now.
So, unlike most of your peers, right, that pitch us alcoholic stuff, right, and so a new form of beer or a new form of we were just yesterday looking at a venture in the whiskey space, right, and here you come along, right, and you're talking about listen, can we have stuff without alcohol? What made you think
Mhm.
that and obviously it was a first for India, right? Because we don't normally would associate a cola, right, with a non-alcoholic kind of beverage, but you basically started this whole thing called the non-alcoholic beer, which I know is prevalent in the US, right? But what made you think this would be the right time for the Indian audience to try a non-alcoholic beer?
Right. So, we have been used to having all these beverages, right? Cola, lemon, oranges and different forms and variants. So I think it's high time that we should move towards innovation and
Mm,
come up with something which people would want to try. So that was the whole concept about getting these new, innovative, modern, trendy flavors,
mm,
and to stay away from colas and lemons, basically. Right? So we just not offer the alternative to like a beer, but we also offer a lot of these new variants which are not there in the market, like cranberry, peach, and all that, which are also good selling for us. Right. So the idea is not just to, be an alternative for beer, not the people who are not having beer and just be an alternate for them. Right. It's more than that. So you
mm.
can enjoy the product and it's easily available everywhere. With beer, you have so many restrictions and you cannot really do much with them. With non-alcoholic beer category, we can do a lot of fusion around it, right? We can
Mm.
really play around with the category. We in our R&D department, like we have done so many kind of research and so many experiments we have done with every kind of recipe you can get. Like so, but obviously we don't come up with all of them. But they're interesting products which we have developed and kept in our pipeline. Maybe later, a couple of years down, we will come up with something different. But right now, we are just trying to build this category as much as possible. And now people are open to it also. Like, people are looking for new products. They are looking, and I see every other day there's a new product that gets launched, maybe in the beverage category or the food category, healthy snacking, likewise, right? So I think people are open to it. The purchasing power has gone up. People don't mind spending above 50 rupees for a product, right? So
Correct.
it's very much, affordable now.
Which
And
is
there are a set of
fairly
people.
fairly interesting because you could typically get at least a not a top quality beer but a decent quality beer for 50-60 rupees, and you're selling now the same thing at the same price point, but now you're saying this is without alcohol. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty bold move. Did you guys do any kind of market testing? Like what was the some of the pre research you guys did before deciding to launch Coolberg?
See, basically, like it all started. I'll go through the journey probably as in when we progress. So it all started, and the research that we did was basically because I am a non-drinker. I do not take alcohol, right? So this was the key point for us to think in this direction, and that's how it all went across. And then finally we came up with this. But the idea was obviously to, as I mentioned, to give something innovative, to make a beverage which is modern, trendy, and aspirational at the same time. So that was the whole idea about it. And with that, this non-alcoholic beer adds up to the excitement of the product. So when you have it in the form of a beer, like the glass, the bottle, right, the entire the creative packaging of it, so it all adds up to the experience of it. For the
True.
pre-market research, definitely, we had spoken to a lot of people, be the cafe owners, the lounge owners, even the end consumer. So, like my friends, and so wherever we could reach as maximum possible, we did that. And an idea was not to, move away people from liquor to non-liquor. That is never the idea, and Kulber never stands for that. It's a separate product altogether. We never encourage, liquor, not the consumption of liquor. We never encourage that. It's always, for people who are not getting the liquor at every place, or probably people who do not take liquor. For them, it's a good product, right? And they can have it with food. It goes well with pizza, any kind of, even North Indian, even Chinese. So it's a good combo to have along with the food as well.
But you took up this job, and we'll get into how difficult it was to sell people. In fact, party hard drivers just came on who would not thank you for launching a non-alcoholic beer. But let's talk about you were at Citibank for almost 5 years, right? As a management associate, you're a CA by
Yeah.
qualification. And how did that conversation go? Like you say, I've done all of this, but you know what, I'm gonna go sell non-alcoholic beer. Mom and dad, wife, whoever is in that circle, right? What happened? So now let's talk about what makes Pankaj Aswani. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, life takes any kind of turn you can never predict. So it all started like from Jaipur here only. Like I belong to Jaipur, born and brought up here. So I was good with maths always and wanted to get into finance or accounts kind of profession, and accordingly CA came into line. And obviously after 3 4 years of studying and all, so then after so much of hard work, you want to get a job eventually because you're so tired of studying that you want to get a job quickly and start earning some money. And that's how it happened back in 2012 when I cleared my CA, and to the God's grace, I did All India fourth rank. So that was something which really helped me in getting a good jobs across. So I started getting offers, and then finally I landed up at Citibank. So Citi is like my first and last job. I started with Citi and ended with Citi only, and then this beautiful thing of Coolberg happened to us. So again, being in Citi, it's a different experience altogether. When you work with a multinational company, you get to learn a lot, the kind of processes they have, the kind of scale that they have. So it's unmatchable, right? And I think it's very important for any founder to see that scale, because you can then implement a lot of stuff, what you have seen, what you have experienced into your own startup, right? So that I think went pretty well for me. 5 years I worked there in multiple different roles.
Mm.
I moved to Chennai. I was there for 1 year, and from Chennai to Bombay, and then finally settled in Bombay. So I think you learn a lot consciously, subconsciously, even like a small thing, which could be like managing your mailbox, right? So you just learn how to reply to so many mails which are coming on day-to-day basis, right? Managing the projects and all that. So I think all that is all that helps in your startup as well. So that is how the whole thing started. And then after 5 years, I got married. So that's the different story now, which led to Coolberg. So in 2016 is when we found out this category Coolberg, and I got married in January 2016. And so in one of our foreign trips, like I was traveling around in New Zealand, Australia, and those countries. So I was introduced to this concept of non-alcoholic beer there. So, and being a non-drinker, for me, like I was looking for something, which could be refreshing and all. And trust me, this non-alcoholic beer, I picked up one product and I was completely hooked onto it.
Yep.
For my duration of 10 days there, I was just having the non-alcoholic beer daily, right? So that was something which really eased out the process of traveling because I don't drink. Yashika, my wife, my co-founder, right? So she drinks, but for me, like it helped me out in some way, right? And then when we returned back here, so I was again missing the same thing, right? Because whenever you go out to a cafe or to a lounge, and all my friends, most of them they do drink, right? So then at that point in time, I was missing something like this, and that's how we thought of coming up with this category. And thanks to Yashika, she did a lot of hard work, and because I was still working with Citi back then in
Yep.
2016. Then we started the research and development part. We met a lot of people, understood the category because for us we were totally like outsiders to this particular FMCG category. We didn't know how to make a distributor. We didn't know how to what are the vendors, what kind of vendors are best in the market. Because there are a lot of these people. Once you get into the industry, then okay, this vendor is in this level, right? And that's the quality
Right.
which we can expect. So all that took a lot of time to understand, and we started somehow. So it took us around 9 months and some investment from our savings to get the first bottle out in the market. That was somewhere around 2016 end, and that's when we incorporated our private limited company also.
Okay.
So 2016 is the year when we started. Yeah.
You bring up a very interesting point. I've noticed that some of the best investment ideas that I came up with were actually when I was traveling, right? So Oyo came to me while I was watching the T20 World Cup in Sri Lanka, and I just saw how awesome Airbnb was doing, and Oyo was the next thing we saw. There's I can say similar things for a bunch of the product startups, right? When I talk about even Find, for example, and things like that. But it's very interesting. Your co-founder is your wife, right? And so now, and I know a lot of people that join into the show, they have, either a family member or sometimes the wife as the co-founder. So how does it work? Like enlighten the audience that we have today that what's it like at work and what's it like when you get back home? Do business conversations come back home, or do the home conversations go into the business? What happens?
Yeah. So it goes in the phases, right? So when we had initially started, right? When the first year I was working with City, and Yashika was the one who was wandering around what to do, how to do, and I was supporting whenever I could get the time. But again, getting your wife as a co-founder is the best thing I think one can have. So there's a general saying, I think the old notion also, where people used to say that a couple co-founder may not go well around because obviously any which way you guys argue, and so those kind of thinking was there, but I think that thinking has changed now. And I'm seeing like recently a lot of companies, the co-founders are the couple, right?
Yeah.
So I think it adds up to a lot of value as a founding team because you know each other so well, right? I know what she wants and she knows me, like, and over the time that's becoming better day by day, right?
So there's a
And
question
obviously,
that's coming from Abhishek Anand. How do you manage work conflicts on key decisions? I'm guessing Abhishek is probably in business with his wife as well.
okay. So, so for that, obviously we have different roles altogether. So she looks after the operations part of it, the end-to-end back-end operations, right from production to logistics and all that. And I am totally into the front-end sales line, right? So for us, the roles are totally different. So at times there are conflicts. So either she convinces me or I convince her. It's something like that. And obviously you tend to fight sometimes. There are times when, you get into an argument, it's heated, and you don't talk for a day. Those things are like normal. It
And
will
then you're like,
happen,
let's
right? You
just share
can't
a
just
Coolberg and make up, right? And she said, no, I want to have a beer.
right. So all those things happen, but I think spending time whole day together, and you get so much time to talk about business. At an initial days of startup, you need to spend that much time because there are so many things happening around, and once you know that, okay, you can just reach out, just look at your left or right, and you can just get the answer for the query you have, right? So I think, and it goes on from morning till night till we sleep, right? So I think it's a good thing to have, and the kind of bond, that trust we have on each other, I think that helps us a lot. I know what she's doing is in the best interest, and what I'm doing is in the best interest again, right? So
So
that's
technically, you guys got a kid as soon as you guys got married, which is obviously your kid being Coolberg.
yes, yes, definitely. So far, like it's almost around like 4.5 years for us for a marriage, but still we that's the only kid that we have, full birth. Right.
No, good. So let's talk about see cool, I want to get into one more topic that we hadn't thought about earlier. But you obviously had to go and now sell not just the distributors, the retailers, and even the restaurants and maybe even bars, right? Convince them to take up your product, right? And last week we had Ashutosh from Beardo, right? And who went through the same process because he was creating this men's category, the men's grooming category altogether. So, in your sense, what was like? How did you go about convincing distributors to take your product and give you shelf space, right? And obviously,
Right.
and then distributors to keep your product in inventory, right? And to put out some capital for it. So, what was it like? Did you have to, you know, cut margins? Did you go door to door? I mean, those are the kind of things that most entrepreneurs don't realize how difficult it is to really get a category out there at the offline level. So please, would love to listen to that story.
Yeah, sure. So initially, in initial days when we had just launched the product, so at that point in time, we were self-managing the distribution in Bombay itself. Because for us, when you are a new product and there's hardly any image online or no one like really knows the product, it's difficult to get a distributor who will invest also in the money, right? There are many distributors in the initial days who will say, okay, you keep the stock with us, we'll sell it, we'll get the money. Once we get the money, we'll give it to you. And the credit could be like ranging from 15 days to 3 months, right? So
Yeah, true.
that's like you just are going by the flow. So initial days, what we did, at least for 3, 4 months, we were self-distributing the product. Still, we were not confident of the product because a lot of fine tunings were required, and we had to be perfect before we could reach out to a third party. And we wanted, or we could have asked them to invest some amount in the as form of a stock as a capital, right? So that was something which we did on a later stage. But initial 2, 3 months, we were managing it ourselves. We had appointed few guys
Wow.
who went to the outlets, and we also went along with them to a lot of outlets. We understood. We spoke to the owners. We spoke to the retailers. What they think of the category, and then obviously they said, okay, you keep it. We'll give it some push to the product, and then we'll see how the customer reacts. And then we used to sit at the restaurant or cafe where we had supplied the product, and we used to wait for the customer to come in. And we would like wait literally for hours for the customer to come in, and then we'll see the expression, right? And also a lot of things that go in the process, right? Like we used to put this 10 cards where you go to any cafe, you would find like some 10 cards kept on each and every table, right? So we used to keep those things on the table, and then we used to see how people are reacting to the material, right? Are they like looking at it, or just getting invisible in so many things in between? So is it like striking enough? Are they picking it up? Are they reading it or not? So those are kinds of experiences that we have taken in the initial days to understand, whether this works or this does not work. And waiting, and once the customer picks up the bottle, is he like, going around the bottle, looking at the ingredients, looking at the entire label,
Because
packaging, and
packaging is so
then
important, right? That first look
yes,
is yeah, it's like
yes.
love
So
at
the
first sight
expression
kind of
of
thing.
the consumer, how it's changing, and when they take a first sip, that's the best point for us. When a customer takes a first sip, right, the reaction just comes naturally, and you can just figure out that the person liked it or didn't like it, right? So that's the thing. And then
Like
later when event,
I knew your product was good and was very good in fact because when I took Vinod out for lunch and at Plenty in Fort, right, and they carry and we got the non-alcoholic beer and Vinod loves beer, right, and he drank the first one, and when he asked for the second one, right, I was like, oh yeah, this
okay,
is a good product, right, this is a
okay,
really good product, and that's why when we wrote the second check, we were quite aggressive. Like, listen, we want to do super pro rata because
right,
at least my litmus test has done done very well. Um,
so
but so now you said you were acting as your own distributor, right? Which means that you need to have some startup capital to be able
hmm.
to keep inventory, right, and to be also to pay the suppliers and to get all of these things off the ground. Where did that initial capital come from?
See, what happens is, obviously, when you start any business, you need to put in some amount in form of the plant and machinery also, right? So we had figured out a third party who had certain plant and machinery available, but that was not up to the mark, right? So we
Okay.
had invested some amount there to make it to a standard where we want to get it, and obviously to add other machines which were required to process the non-alcoholic beer stuff. So that was some capital that we had invested from our savings. Obviously, I had taken money from my savings, my family members, and all that. That was like a bootstrapping. We did it at least for 1 year. The entire 2017 is when where we bootstrapped totally, right? Again, so one like in the initial 3 months, you obviously get credit from the suppliers as well. Like, and we were not stocking too much. Also, we were just going hand in mouth. We were just buying that much which is required to be, made and taken to the market. So the inventories were very less. We were not holding much of a stock and just trying to save every penny possible. And then as and when we were getting more confidence, product was getting sold in the market, in the retail side, in the cafes, lounges, and all. So we were getting some confidence, and with the confidence, we started putting in some more money to take it further. And after 3 to 4 months, that's when we decided that the product seems okay now, and we had like multiple SKUs. By then, we had 4 flavors which we had come up with. And then we thought, okay, now we understand the market a little bit. We have some understanding of how FMCG operates. A limited understanding because 3 to 4 months you can't understand much about it, but
True.
at least a basic understanding of how people will react, how a distributor will react. So we met a couple of distributors, tried convincing them. But the best part about is that to get the right sales guys, well, that's something which eventually will take you to the next level because it's all works on the face value. Because I go to a distributor and tell him about my product, I can sell my vision to him, I can sell my dream to him, but eventually he should know that who will work, right? Because he has to see a face which from with whom he's familiar with, and then only he'll take the money and put it out, right? Because he knows that okay, this is the guy, I know this guy from long time, he's the one who will take care of my stock. So that's what we have been doing throughout our journey. We appoint distributors, we make sure that our person is there to sell the product because distributor is like a delicate relationship. We don't want his money to get stuck either, and it has to be a rotation for him because when only he gets the money from the market, we were getting it. And then after a point, we had this policy when we were very confident about our product. Then we started getting money in advance. Then we
Got it.
started distributors. Okay, you want this, you pay us some amount in advance, and that's how we started building up the entire scale. That's where we are today. But initially, it's all dependent on the sales guys because they have the face value. They have been working in the market, and then they know where to sell the product, right? So getting experts, right experts, is like the key to the success, I think.
But then something weird happens, right? Is that as you get more successful and you start getting distributors who are going to pay you in advance and your working capital issues are going to get solved, all of that stuff is happening. And guess what happens? Competitors show up, right? And I remember when you guys were getting
Yeah,
popular,
right.
in fact, even the established brands, right? I think Heineken came out with a zero point
Hmm.
0.0 or something. And I believe you guys
Hmm.
addressed that even on an investor call. And so, I've always been surprised at how scared entrepreneurs are of competition, right? But I think it for you guys, it sort of spurred you guys on. They're like, oh wow, guess what? This is now a category, right? And I
Yeah,
remember that
exactly.
confidence you guys had. Where did that like? were you guys okay? Were you faking it till you make it? Kind of like, okay, to investors, I got to be like super confident, right? But until you're like, listen, what the heck is happening? What was it like? Like when you go
Right.
outside, you're like, what? I'm the only guy in this category, and then you're like, no, wait a minute, there's like four other people in this category, and guess what? Heineken joined in too, and maybe Kingfisher at that time was also going to come out with their own. I
Right.
don't know whether they did come out or not, but they were going to come out with some non-alcoholic beer, and suddenly you
Right.
were
Right.
fighting all of these guys. What was that like? And how did you like sort of come out of that? Like, how did you
Hmm.
decide to take it on? Because you guys were very confident on that call.
Right. So what happened when we initially heard about, like big brands coming into the play, then obviously you get that kind of, you are little tense about it. Okay, what will happen? We have just started, and but by then I think we have raised certain seed round we have raised, and we had some holding in the market. We had like some distribution setup. We were there somehow in the market. Like we got some time. I think around 2 years we got before no one had come in, and that was the time actually we really went in the market, and we had some holding there in the market. And when we heard first time about the big bands coming in, and then I was little worried about them coming. Definitely, you when such players, big players who have deep pockets,
The
and they
distributions are
have the
much
kind
stronger.
of experience, to lead this kind of a beverage product. Definitely, anybody would get worried about it. But then again, when I spoke to people, when I like thought over it, then the ultimate thing came up was the category will become big now, and that's
Hmm.
what happened actually, right? When I see now and 2 years back when these players were not there, I think people now know about this category. I think many a times more than what they were doing before, because these people have the money to spend on advertisement, which we obviously didn't have, right? So they could do a lot of stuff to educate the consumer. I think right now also, and maybe for next few years, I think it's more to do about building this category. And then obviously at the ground level, whoever is more into the execution mode, whoever has done a better execution will take it forward. And obviously some marketing has to be done on every side, right? So then also we also stepped up a bit and did some kind of marketing at a ground level, not at a very high level, but at least to be available across India. So right now, as we speak, we are available across India as a product, right from Jammu to Kerala till Northeast, so we have a distribution network across the country now. Obviously, the penetration is required much more, and we are just there in bits and pieces, and there's enough scope out there to increase the penetration and take the complete charge of the category. And since our portfolio is quite big, and other players, all the big players, they have like kind of lineage to the beer side, and they are kind of dealing into malt category of product. But we have a added advantage of having a multiple portfolio or multiple products, right? And we are very fast with innovation, right? So I can just do innovation within like 15 days and come up with something new. And obviously for a bigger company, it's a little longer process. You have like global processes around, right? So it's okay. As in each side is balanced. They have their own processes, own thoughts, and own scale. And we as a startup work in a different mode and a very frugal way also. So I think it's just the battle that you have to win somehow, or you have to be there and survive the time and be there in a dominating position. So,
And before I ask the next question, I know there's a lot of people that are commenting and engaging, but if there's any questions you guys would like to ask Pankaj, please go ahead and put them in the comment section below, and I'll ask them as and when we get a chance. But so let's talk about, like, when did you think that, what, now this is a good time for us to go outside and start raising money? Was that something you guys had planned during, your company building process, or how did that idea come about? You know what, I think we should go raise some VC money.
right. So it happened in two phases actually. So in 2016, and when we had come up with our first bottle, when we went to the market, at that time we pitched to a few cafes, restaurants, and all that. And when we got when we onboarded them, at that point in time, we thought of raising VC money very early in the life. It was probably like 2 months down in the market when and we had a product which was seemingly okay at that point in time, and we had onboarded few clients by then, so some good cafes, lounges, some retail stores. So we thought, okay, now we have the product ready, we have the market which is somehow accepting the product, and there's not like a glaring objection coming through as such from the market, and whatever was the feedback we tried innovating our product and trying bettering our product by changing the packaging, taste, or whatever was the feedback back then. So that was the time when we thought of, scaling this up at a bigger level. And obviously, when as a founder, you have a little saving, right, and which you already invested in form of plant and machinery and kind of working capital. So to scale faster, you definitely get a thought, right? Okay, everybody is raising money around. Let's give it a shot. At that
Yeah.
point in time, 2017 beginning itself, I had spoken to a couple of investors, not many, just a couple of them, just to understand how they feel about the category, what is their
And how did you
perspective
meet
about
these
the category.
investors?
So just the cold calling,
Cold calling.
like
There
the
you go.
cold
So guys,
emails, yeah.
if you're out there looking for investors, cold calling is the way. I wanted to get that. I know you told me this before, but I wanted to get that
Yeah,
answer. So good. So
right.
I'm guessing you cold called them off LinkedIn, or was it at
Yeah,
events?
LinkedIn on their websites, they have the email ID, so we circulated them and then disturbed them on LinkedIn and somehow got to the table and over the phone we interacted and so the idea was to just to get a feeler about how they feel about the category and by chance if we could have raised the fund then we would have raised it, right? So that was the whole idea about it. But eventually then we realized and the feedback that we got from the market that this category didn't exist back then, right?
Hmm.
And people were not very sure of how non-alcoholic beer will turn up, right? Because they have been seeing different healthy categories like juices coming up, and all those categories were raising funds. But this was something which was not a usual category like non-alcoholic beers, right? So people were not confident back then, and they were a little hesitant. And the only feedback which we got was to prove the market. They said, okay, it's too early for you guys. Why don't you go back and build some more market and come back to us again, right? So that was the kind of feedback which we got, and this is what we took it very seriously, and we understood the feedback, and we thought that okay, I think that's the right way to go about it. Let's at least build something valuable, or at least something which is there to get the interest, and something which we also believe that we have done a decent enough start, right? And that's when the entire 2017 we bootstrapped completely. And in the process of this 2017, I think we have reached out to around 30 cities by then. We had appointed
Wow.
multiple distributors. We had some decent revenue, and we were profitable in the first year. We had like some profits, not like high percentage, but at least like little profits
You were
because
a
obviously
startup that
we were
had
both.
profits. You're like in the 0.1 of the 0.1%.
No, that was for the first year. Then later on, obviously, we could not manage that. But in the first year, we did everything possible. We did a lot of combinations. We hired people. We had to let them go. We did that kind of filtering in the team, figured out the entire supply side. So a lot of learnings were there in the first year, which we did in a very difficult way. I remember we had switched to three offices in the first year itself, right?
Wow.
So initially, when we had so we wanted a very small place. So we approached the landlord and say, okay, we don't need this big space. You just give a portion of this space and we'll keep some stock here. We'll pay you like some 30-40% rent of this place. So he said, okay, fine. Then we took that place. And then after 2 months, what happened? He got an offer for the entire place. Then he
Oh,
kicked us
wow.
out. Okay, said, okay, I got the offer for the entire place. Now you go. So then we figured out some other place, and then we moved our base. So this kept happening. So three offices we moved in the first year itself, and then eventually we got a lot of confidence. We got some distributors on board. By then we had moved across cities, and then we thought that now is the time that we have understood the category well. I think we have proven some part of it, like the initial bits of it. We have taken the charge,
True.
and now I think we should go back again and talk to the investors about scaling it up because scaling is obviously that's the vision of any startup founder that we want to scale it up and make it a big category, right? And that's when again we started pitching in the market.
So how did you guys meet? I mean, Sanjay Mehta. So Sanjay is typically in the ecosystem known as is a very astute tech investor, right? And I mean, there is some
Yeah.
tech, but this is not a tech. This is not a hardcore tech company. And you convince a tech investor, and I'm telling you, Sanjay is an evangelist for you guys. I mean, he personally called me saying, "Listen, this is a deal I'm leading. You need to participate." And doesn't do that, right? Sanjay is not one of those guys who will do that, but he did for you.
Right.
So tell me, like, how did you meet him, right? And what was it that he's such a big fan of Coolberg?
Right. So we had pitched again to Indian Angel Network early in 2018.
Okay.
after 1 year of bootstrapping, and that's when I had pitched in the Mumbai office, Delhi office also. So Sanjay was not in the room when I had pitched. So he just got a portfolio deck and all, and then he got some interest, and he wanted to meet us. So then I remember still Anu was there in IN, and then back then, and then she called me saying that, okay, you know what, who has got the interest after your pitch? I said, who? And I didn't know Sanjay back then, right? So he said Sanjay Mehta. I said, okay, that's good. So she told me, do you know who is Sanjay? I said, no, I'll just read up quickly. He said, okay, you read and then you call me, right? And then I obviously read about him, and then I realized, okay, he is there in the industry, and he's like one of the most active and like in the topmost, angel investor. So then I was very excited about that, and then finally I got the chance to meet him, and he came to our office, he met us, and again he asked so many questions. He wanted to be fully sure about the category, and there were like multiple
It's
rounds
not
of
like if they
discussion
get
on
into
this.
product startups. I mean, like
Yeah,
especially consumer goods startups. It's he has an inkling, but he's not traditionally that investor. Right? Every person in the ecosystem has a strength, and we always go
right,
to Sanjay with something tech wise. Right? Like when I get the tech
hmm,
validated, we go to Sanjay, right? And he always have an
right,
answer. But
right.
it really was refreshing to see him really back you guys. And I know you guys got oversubscribed at IAN, right? We got pari passu down to like 20% of what we had committed. So we were just okay to be part of the story. But what was it like when you got somebody calls you and say, listen, by the way, you guys were raising X amount of money and you guys have got oversubscribed 3x and 4x. Was that like a cause for celebration for you guys? Did you guys pop open a Coolberg?
Yeah, so what happened was before the round was about to get open, like I think they had given me a time of 7 p.m. or some time was given to me that this point in time, the round will open up. So I was pretty nervous at that point in time. I didn't know whether it will get subscribed at all, or I was talking to Anu, I was talking to Sanjay, what will happen? We'll just get subscribed. Sanjay said, you don't worry, let's see. And then after, I think within, I think 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I got a call. From Anu saying that got oversubscribed. I was like
Yeah.
finally now this is like the thing. And then she told me this much oversubscription happens, and we were like really happy at that point in time. That was like the first, like kind of a silver lining. Okay, now something is happening, right? It's actually happened. So before that, it was all discussions happening. We had pitched so many times, and then finally we got another lead also, Anirudh Agarwal, who's
Mm.
based out of Delhi. So I had been to Delhi to pitch in IN, and from there he liked the project, and then I met him. I pitched to him also multiple times. So there were a lot of back and forth which happened. It was not easy to get convince people. It's a really tough task to raise money. It took us a good number of months to close the deal. But I think, and Sanjay Mehta has been like one of the key player in the entire journey. So we again, India Quotient also participated in the first round, and we're lucky to have such investors in the seed round, right? So many iron angel investors, Sanjay Mehta being one of them, you being one of them, and so many others. Plus the IQ, Madhukar,
India Coast,
Anand,
yeah,
everybody
great
in
set of
the,
investors,
yeah,
definitely. But then,
right.
then
So
you
I was
and
very
you
lucky.
recently,
Yeah.
in November 2019, you went ahead and raised multiples of what you raised, right? From led by
Yeah.
RB, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yes. Right.
but so before we talk about that, tell me which one was easier to raise, the 3.5 million or that first round of capital?
See, I think first round was difficult to raise because we didn't know the ecosystem well back then, right? We were so outsiders to the ecosystem, so we didn't know how is it like, how investors think. Some are consumer driven fully. They'll not even look at a tech one. Some are just totally tech one. They'll not even look at consumer ones. So we took some time to understand all those intricacies of the investors. And so I think the first round, reaching out and getting that done was a bigger thing. And obviously, then the second one, we had a purpose because we knew what we were doing and we had the strategies built in our board meetings. We knew, okay, this is what we are trying to establish. So obviously we were trying to establish how do we get the repeat customers. So that was one of the key item which we were driving towards Series A, saying that okay, we have certain set of customers in certain cities. How do we make sure that we are getting the consumer love? how do we make sure that there's enough repeat purchase happening about the product, right? So that is something which we were trying to establish, and and what happened that IQ itself, they were very bullish on the category, along with India Angel Network. So I think both of them were very bullish about the category, and we were very confident that if we are able to achieve our milestone, then they were ready to like put up the second round itself. And then eventually we met RB Investments also, and they are again like one gem of the investor. And when you speak to Rajesh, it's something like next level, and the kind of the conversations that you can have with him is like next level, right? So very lucky to have such investors on board, and the kind of guidance that we're driving from them in terms of strategies and all. I think that's wonderful.
So one of the questions we had is how did you come up with the variants, right? You've got 6 flavors, and obviously you're coming up with new ones. What's the way you're testing and coming up with these flavors?
Right. So we have a proper R&D department in our factory where we do a lot of testing of the product. So we always wanted to have something which is modern, right? We'll never come up with something which is like lemon or a cola or something like that, right? Because those are not what Coolberg stands for. So if at all we'll come up with something which is like new altogether, right? We'll not come up with something which is traditionally, maybe we might try some fusion around it, but not in a very basic form. Maybe we'll see how it goes. So R&D team, they always keep looking for new product, new variants, and then obviously we have a certain set of process where we go around and take the feedback of the product. We have rejected so many variants. We have tried it within a small group, within certain clients also, and then we have rejected the product also. So all that keeps happening. Innovation is the key for us. We keep changing the taste, fine-tuning it as per the requirement from the market. I think that will go on forever. I think that's a process that we are happy to have it forever.
Great. So good. So now you've raised capital. Then COVID happened, right?
Right.
And now I think you guys have had to innovate your distribution model again, I believe, right? So let's talk about that. I believe you guys are now one of the only brands, maybe the only non-alcoholic beer brand that is actually drop shipping direct to consumer, right? So let's talk about how COVID has been for you guys, how you guys are responding to that, and about this new shipping model that you guys have.
Right. So I think COVID obviously has impacted in a deep way to our category. We do service across the retail and the cafe and restaurant industry. So cafe and restaurants are basically hit the hardest, right? So that has put a lot of impact on our sales, and obviously we are more worried about our channel partners, right? The cafes and the restaurants, because when we talk to them, we are not seeing a lot of positivity around. Some of them are positive, but at a larger ecosystem, the positivity is not that much built in yet, right? So we are more worried for them as in how they will, survive this part, and everybody has their expenses all around. So that is something to worry about. But even having said which, we had to innovate a bit. So we had moved some focus on online sales now. Distribution is same. The offline distribution has not changed. So we have our distributors for the retail side, for the cafe restaurant side. So those are working properly the way they were before. Obviously, there are some challenges which has come up now. Some outlets are shut. Some distributors are in red zone. Some outlets are in red zone. So that is all which is being managed. And I think with the time, these things will get over. But what thing we did newly was to go online, which is not new as such, as in a lot of brands are there online, but the distribution model, which is there offline, we use the same model to deliver the product, because since we have the glass bottles, which are a little difficult to move around from one place to other place. So we thought that, okay, we have this offline distribution model, which is pretty much covering the entire India now. So why don't we just utilize them and ask them to deliver the product to the end consumer? So with this,
that's an interesting one, right? I mean, you could have saved margin by not doing that, but you did that. Wow.
Yeah. So what is happening with that is like the logistic cost that is getting that is equivalent to our distributor margin, kind of, because it's a heavy case, like the bottles are a little heavy and it's fragile. So for us to transport it from a warehouse across India And especially during these days, the logistics are not running at their best, right? Because the
Right.
delivery timelines are really high, and consumers are
And
getting
you can't do
irritated
cash
because
on
of that.
delivery anymore, right? Nobody, none of the guys will do
Yeah.
cash on delivery.
Correct. And Indian e-commerce is like cash on delivery, right?
Yeah.
Most of it, right? So all those challenges were there. So we thought that, if we do in a very like traditional way, like every other brand does it, shipping it directly from different warehouses. So we thought we have these small distributors who are around, and let's utilize them. So at least their stock will also move, and they'll also get some confidence that, companies supporting through online form. And we wanted their stock also to move in the market, right? Because they are holding some stocks for us, and because of COVID, that got stuck, right? So our objective was to liquidate their stock. They can get some money, and for us, any which way, we are making money by selling it to them. And the delivery timelines were very short, right? So if we were
I
getting the
think the key
orders,
point is that you took care of your distribution network, even though you could have gone direct and obviously probably made more money. And I think
yeah,
that's going to come back and pay you guys multifold, right? Because you
right,
literally, I mean, and there have been cases where companies have broken that trust because this was the
yeah,
best opportunity to do so. But
right,
you've decided to keep it. And I think that speaks volumes about the kind of entrepreneur or the kind of founder, right? And the kind of brand of entrepreneurship you want to promote. And I'm really proud that we're part of this journey with you guys.
yeah.
Um, Now let's do this. Let's go to rapid fire. There's a lot of questions
Sure,
coming
sure.
in, and after that, I'm gonna take
Okay.
some questions. But
That's
I
a
really want to go to
most
rapid
difficult
fire.
part of the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've told you about it, so you're ready. Do you wanna pop up on a Coolberg or something, or we can go?
Let's go, let's go.
Good.
If it goes well, I'll pop up a Coolberg.
Okay. Good. Okay. All right. So good. So let's ask you the first question. So what do you know now that you wish you would have known earlier?
That's an easy one. It's COVID-19. I wish I would have known that before.
Okay, not crystal gazing. Talking about like maybe something like like I wish I'd known this earlier. This would have made it faster. This would have made it better for me.
I think the how to do the online sales. I think I learned that pretty late in the game. If I would have known it earlier, I would have probably built some decent online traction also. So I think that is something that I wish I would have known earlier how to. And still, I'm learning the process of taking up online sales because we were like majorly offline driven. We had like offline distribution and everything. So online sales is something that I'm focusing on, and I wish I would have known it better. So I'm learning on the way.
Learning online sales. Yeah, I think that's so key, especially now, especially in the post-COVID world.
Right,
And maybe you could give us some references towards the end about where people could go and learn about this kind of stuff. So
right,
question number 2. One thing that you know to be true, but very few people agree with you on it.
right. So you see, in this thing, there's one particular saying, right? And this I've seen in my close circle also, that don't give up on your dreams, right? I've seen founders saying, I've seen like a lot of these people saying that do not give up on your dreams, just stick to it and work
Mm.
hard, and eventually you will get to what you want to do, right? That's like a very common and easy saying, which is
Accepted, yeah, yeah, correct.
accepted across, right? But what I've seen personally with few cases is that founders, they kind of get into this kind of a zone where they just want to do what they have thought of doing, and they don't want to reconsider what others are saying, right? I've seen multiple times that 8 out of 10 people are talking against the project or against the venture, right? But still, they believe that, okay, no, this is something that I can pull off. Maybe it's good, some people do that, right? And we have seen a lot of cases where people have pulled off against all the odds which were put against them, and those cases are few, right? Where we see the stories, okay, it's a unicorn company, and
Mm.
founder fought against all the odds, and it's a set, it's a known fact that so many startups fail, right? So I think if there are clear indicators from the market that obviously you should give your best, you should do whatever it's appropriate, but you should know the end point of it, right? That okay,
Mm.
these are the if investors are saying something, or let's say the market, the consumers are saying something, right? Like that's more important, right? The consumer saying something. Investors are, again, you will find some investors having some thought process, some will say some thought
Very true.
process, right? But after a point, then if consumers are saying, and that's the majority of the portion, then I think the founder or the the person who's aspiring for that project should take a backseat and relax and
So
think through whether is this the right path to go, or should I stop it here and think of something else? Because eventually then they end up losing a lot of scarce resources which they have, and then it puts them in trouble, right? So I think balancing it out and knowing when to stop if it goes south, right? Obviously, we don't
no, it's
wish
a
that,
very
and we
key
don't
point
hope
you
that.
brought on board. Pankaj, what you're saying is that the founder should have the ability to soak in everyone's opinion, right, and
Right.
then make an informed decision. And what happens typically, and I see this a lot, is that founders tend to hold on to whatever opinion they have, and they're saying
Hmm.
this is the right one and not willing to listen to anyone else. And I think,
Right.
and in both those approaches, in the one where the founder is just holding on to his opinion, everybody else starts giving up. They're like, this guy's not willing to listen, right?
Hmm.
And the point is that the person giving you advice could still be wrong, but the point is that he needs to get heard. Whether that is your now, when I say investor, I'm not just or advisor, I'm not just saying investor. Your customers, your advisor. Your distributors, your
Yeah.
advisor. Your
Right.
co-founder, your employees, your sales guy. Everyone's an advisor, and the role of a CEO is to be able to soak in all that information, right? And then say, you know
Correct.
what, I'm gonna squeeze out whatever I don't want and keep whatever I do need to keep. And that's it's. I mean, if there was one gold piece of information besides everything else you've given us, this is like absolute gold, right? 24 karat, and
Hmm.
so it's so key. Uh, okay, so let's talk about the biggest advice you would give to founders about fundraising.
Right. So again, from my personal experience, do not go too early to raise funds, right? Unless it's a project which requires a lot of capital in the first stage itself. At least build something basic, not like too much, but at least something which gives you that kind of confidence, which actually tells you that, okay, this startup or this project is successful or can be successful. You have that kind of backing to it, right? So I've seen people raising funds on paper, ideas, and all that, which is good, probably maybe due to the nature of the idea that you cannot execute without funds. But if something is possible where you can actually use your some saving, maybe if it's doable, but at least use that a bit and then build something there where so it gives you the confidence. It will give the investor some confidence that the person has skin in the game. It's not just idea on the paper. Person has actually done something from its own money. Maybe it's borrowed, it's savings or whatever. But some traction has to be there. That's like my personal belief. I might be wrong, but that's how I feel about it.
No, that's it's key. I think going too early is also wrong, right? It's mistiming. It's a management error, whether it's
Hmm.
product or whether it's going out to investors.
Correct.
Let's see. I was going to ask you a question. How do you keep a great relationship with your co-founder? But I think we've already covered that. So okay,
Right.
rank this in order of importance, and this is one that you did not know, has not been asked before. It's out of syllabus today. Rank in
Right.
order of importance: shareholders, customers, employees, founders. I'll
So
repeat.
number
Ra-
one are,
Yeah.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
want,
Please repeat
if
one
you
more
have the
time.
answer, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, just repeat one more time. So I'm very clear
The
with that.
rank in order of importance: shareholders, customers, employees, founders.
Right. So founders are the last.
Last.
Diplomatic
Okay,
answer.
we've got three:
Right.
shareholders, customers, employees. Who's second last?
Right. See, I think if customer is there, then shareholders will thrive, employees will thrive, right? So without a customer, shareholder can't do anything, employees can't do anything, right? So customer has to be happy. Customer is the key. That's what we have learned all throughout,
The customers
right?
on top.
So customer is on top. Then I think it's a tie between employees and shareholder, I believe. I think employees are equally important like shareholders because without shareholders, we could not have gotten so many employees in first place, right? And without employees, shareholders cannot make value. So I think it's a tie between employees and shareholders, but I think customers are clearly the winners, and followed by employees and shareholders, and then I think the founder is the last.
Yeah, that's it. I
If
think
everything,
that's probably the right order actually, and especially in a B2C company like yours, like customer, employee, then come shareholders, and then founders. No, that's a great
right.
one. So a piece of advice that sounded good at the time when you heard it, you're like, this is great advice, but it was terrible
Yeah.
in the long run
So,
when you
so
realized it, when you put in
yeah,
action?
right. So we have got so many advices all throughout our journey. So many of them have been around to launch a Coolberg beer in a plastic bottle, to launch Coolberg in Tetra packs, right? To launch a smaller version of it, probably 100 ml or 150 ml in a small bottle to reduce the MRP. So we have got so many advices around it, around the product, so many, but we are thankfully we haven't applied any of them so far, and we don't think of doing that. So I think that is something that advice we have gotten so many times from our customers, also from distributors, also. But at large, we know that this might not work. So I think that's a terrible advice that we have got, and we want to stay away from that.
So we've got roughly about 4 minutes to go. So I'm gonna probably be able to ask you one question. You have to be
Sure,
quick
sure.
with the answer on this one. If an investor can provide one value to you besides the money, what would it be?
See, I think investors add a lot of contacts for you. That's what I've seen personally myself. Because to give you an example, like Sanjay Mehta, India Quotient, right? So I think these are the people with whom I have interacted a lot during the journey, right? So I think you get to know a lot of people, right? I remember Sanjay has gotten me to pitch at your event also, which happened.
Yep,
I think some event which
at
happened.
the AGM, I
So
think. Yeah.
not yours, maybe some other event was there. So I think the kind of visibility you get besides the money, because you can rely on their network and experience. I think that's something which is quite valuable, and they have spent so many years building that kind of network. And when they give access to you for that network, I think it's the
It's the leverage
humble
you get
thing
out
what
of
they
it.
do. Right, right.
Uh, I think if we get 30 seconds to answer this question, and you have 30 seconds, Pankaj, is one thing you would like to change about the Indian startup ecosystem?
Okay. I think it's all good. I don't think there's something to be
Nothing to
changed. I
change.
think Indian ecosystem startup is going in the right way, I believe. Deals are increasing, investors are coming through, and I'm seeing some traction happening from the Indian traditional industrialist also. Some has picked up at least. And I wish investors to make more money. So if they make more money, the confidence will grow and more money will come in, right? So I think the entire ecosystem can only be built if investors get more exit opportunities, probably. So if you guys make money, then you can
Yes.
raise bigger
And
funds,
then
and then
one
it
day
can
maybe
come
we can
back to
have
us.
you back as angel investors. So I've got the 2 minute counter from Instagram. So what we'll do quickly is that final thoughts from your side, and then we can close out the show. So thank you so much first of all for being here, and really enjoyed. I think this is such an interesting conversation. Like we're talking to you in the middle of your journey, and last week we just talked to someone who was at the end of their journey. But there's so many similarities between two category creators. If there was a final thought you wanted to leave the people that are that have logged in and are going to be watching this video later, what would that final thought be? And we have roughly
No, I
about
think
30
in
seconds for
this
your answer.
times, I think we should all be safe, and I think survive this pandemic anyhow, economically, obviously health-wise, definitely. So I think that's the biggest thing, we all should be doing, and that's what I'm hearing all around, to conserve cash as much as possible and just to survive this pandemic somehow, right? Any way it happens, just survive this time and just be healthy and be safe. And I think that's about it.
Be healthy, be safe, and I think that's a great way to end today's show. Thank you so much, Pankaj, for being here. Really enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully, we can have the wife here to give her side of the story, whether
Yes,
she
yes.
was asked to quit beer, and hopefully we'll have her in a future segment. Thank you very much once again. Thank you for having me be a part of this journey, and thank you for sharing your journey with everybody that's on that's logged into this live video today. Thank you so much, Pankaj.
Thanks, Anirudh, for inviting. It's a pleasure talking to you. And thank you all the audience to be there and patiently listening us. I'm sure it's boring enough, but thank you for being there.
Bye.
Okay, bye.